Yo, what's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about the Streamer Planet Draft League. Streamer Planet, if you guys don't already know, is a stream community over on Twitch where we focus on the community from different games like Smash Ultimate to Fortnite and of course to Pokemon. So if you guys haven't already, I do recommend joining our Discord. Link to that will be in the description below. You get to meet a whole bunch of different people. That's how I met a lot of my friends, to be honest. And there's a bunch of different, genres that you can link into. And probably, get yourself a new squad to play with if you guys really wanted to. So I do recommend joining it. Check it out in the link in the description below. Get this real quick before we get started. This will actually be my first ever draft league, and I think it's actually kind of perfect because of, well, the game that we're doing. We're doing, of course, Pokemon Let's Go. So it makes it easier and simpler to play for the time being. So the best way I can compare it to is kind of like a perfect intro course. So this is going to give me the feel of how these draft leagues work and see if, it's going to be something I want to do in the future as well. I'm also going to throw it out there that this also will be another draft league that I'll be playing concurrently along, at the same time with this one. Of course, still specializing in Pokemon Let's Go. However, it's going to be a little bit different. You guys will see as the time goes on with that analysis video coming out later. But today we're going to be going over pretty much our picks and the situations that we were in when we were picking these Pokemon. And the best things that I like to talk about, just because I feel like it brings up the most drama, is the sniping of certain Pokemon. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So without further ado, my name is Louie. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. So pick number one, the way that this draft league worked, it was a snake format. So we have 5 people in our division, 10 people overall in the whole league. And the way the snake format works is it goes, the first 5 people pick, right? And then when technically when you go into the second round, the 5th person that picked last picks first this time, so he gets 2 back-to-back. Unfortunately, I was kind of stuck in the middle. I was pick 3, so person 1, person 2, they kind of got the big megas. Big megas are the ones that people are going to be eyeing at the very, very start of the game or the draft league. So Johnny GB starts it off by picking Mega Aerodactyl. And Mega Aerodactyl, I can't. Well, okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of ground rules actually. Let you guys know about this. The Melmetal and Mewtwo, they were banned. Starter Pikachu, Starter Eevee, banned. And then we also decided to ban Mega Alakazam just because there's not enough counters for it in this game. So we decided to really, ban those guys. So what's left on the plate at this point is, Mega Aerodactyl, since Johnny GB picked it pretty much right at the very start of the whole thing. And Aerodactyl, can work as a taunter, can work as a stealth rocker, hits really, really hard. So I kind of wanted to get something that I could, try to counter it. However, I had to go through pick number 2, the person that picked second, which was Ioku, and he decided to go with Mega Gengar, and so it was something I also have to look out for in the future as well. But for now, my choices were kind of set in stone. I didn't want to go for a Mega at this point because there's not really many Megas after Aerodactyl and Gengar. There is Gyarados, which Tidemaster Tim got after me. But after that, there's really not much. There really isn't. So I decided I'm going to use my first pick to grab Zapdos. Zapdos works perfectly. It could be a great pivot Pokemon with the use of U-Turn. Thunderbolt hits really hard with those pesky Water-type Pokemon running around. Also, Thunderbolt can hit Mega Aerodactyl and regular Aerodactyl, so that's very important to note as well. Does have access to moves like Toxic if it wants to. And then you can actually run Drill Peck as well. Some people tend not to play Drill Peck and they play Toxic instead. It just really depends on the matchup, of course, because I will be switching things up. And then, of course, Roost is the best recovery. However, it puts it vulnerable to ground-type moves on the use of Roost. So that's something to note. So at this point, I'm not going to be getting a pick for a little bit. So Tidemaster Tim grabs Mega Gyarados. Kind of perfect because I know he likes his water Pokemon. And Mega Aerodactyl is it's a good dark type Pokemon, a great water type Pokemon. So we get to Soy Salamonster, who gets the 5th overall pick, and because he's last in the order of snake picks, he gets the 6th one as well. So for his 5th pick, he kind of thought the same thing with me. Not really necessary to grab a Mega Pokemon just yet. So he decides to go ahead and grab a Alolan Muck, considering it's pretty much the best dark type Pokemon in the game, and Alakazam was still out there, so he was pretty much getting a good counter for those Psychic Pokemon, because Psychic tends to be one of the best, if not the best, typing in Generation 1, to be honest. So he gets Alolan Muck, but since he has to set the pick right afterwards, he decides to go ahead and grab Alakazam, which is probably, and to be honest, it is the best Psychic Pokemon in the game, without, of course, like Mega Alakazam and Mewtwo, Mew being available and stuff like that. So he grabs Alakazam, and it's kind of a dirty play because he grabs Alolan Muck, the best dark type Pokemon, and then he grabs Alakazam, so there's not really much for people to really choose to counter for that Alakazam, so it's pretty tough, and it kind of, you know, it was, people thought it was a dirty play, but it was a smart play on Salamonster's part. Type Master Tim follows up by grabbing regular Aerodactyl, so both Mega and regular Aerodactyl are off the playing field, and in my head I'm just thinking about how am I going to counter Aerodactyl. It's going to be a big thing. I know I have Zapdos already, but what's my next play? So I decided to go ahead and grab Starmie. Starmie, very versatile Pokemon, very, very quick Pokemon, has access, you know, has dual typing Water, Psychic, has access to Psychic, Scald, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, you know, things like that, and it does have access to Recovery in the form of Recover, and of course you can run anything else you want with it, because it kind of tends to learn quite a bit of moves. But that's usually the same things that you see on a lot of Starmies. However, it's a really, really hard-hitting Scald user. You get those burns off, make things so much easier for you in battles. Things go on, and Dragonite gets picked, Nidoqueen gets picked, Snorlax gets picked, Poliwrath gets picked, and at this point, I'm kind of just like, I don't know, you know, I think I'm still in the mindset that I want to try to see if I can stop Aerodactyl as much as I can, and then I started thinking about it, I'm just like, maybe there's a few electric type Pokemon that I'm going to be worried about in general, and then I needed something to kind of counter the Alolan Muck, because Alolan Muck is going to be a great counter to my Starmie. I needed something to hit, you know, hit that ground type weakness of anything that has ground type weakness, and, you know, Nidoqueen's already picked at this point. Really, Nidoqueen wasn't necessarily on my radar. It's just something that I was like, I don't feel the need to grab Nidoqueen. So I was thinking about what was available at the time. I could have gone Golem. I could have gone pretty much anything else, but I decided to go with Rhydon. So Rhydon's pretty cool. Of course, Stealth Rocker. You have options for Stealth Rocks. It's the best hazard. Well, it's the only hazard in the game, and it's pretty much permanent. So it's going to be something you're going to be seeing a lot. Stealth Rocker, Earthquake, Rock Slide. However, it does have a dual type weakness to grass type moves. So like if an Alolan Muck carries something like Mega Drain, that's going to be like the, you know, a big thing to worry about. You can also run like Toxic on this thing, and then you can also run like Dragon Tail. There's different options you can run with Rhydon. I made the joke when I picked Rhydon that I was going to use Surf. And that's just because of, like, I was always baffled growing up why Rhydon got Surf. And I just made it a joke. So I don't know, maybe I might do it, you know. So there's that out there as well. So after I picked Rhydon, the list continues going on, and Type Master Tim picks up Machamp, Soy Monster picks up Jolteon and Golem, and that's where it was like, you know, the Jolteon popped up. I have a perfect counter with Rhydon if things occur in my way. Type Master Tim also picked up Alolan Raichu, which was very, very interesting because you don't necessarily see this happen too often, and you know, it has that Psychic Electric dual typing. So I kind of have counters at this point to hit with that thing, depending if it hits really, really hard. Of course, with its electric typing, it's going to be hitting both Starmie and Zapdos. So it's something for me to look out for. But I kind of feel at this point that, you know, my picks are kind of good to counter a few Pokemon that are being picked up. My big thing is, though, I focus on one person and see if I have a counter on them, and that's where I kind of like start messing up. Another thing that I've been doing throughout this draft, actually, is I've been a bit of a troll. People take their good time to try to pick their Pokemon. You know, they want to pick the right Pokemon going into these things. And so I have two people ahead of me, and at that point, I kind of already have the Pokemon that I'm going to pick in my mind. And I do it as I don't think anybody really paid attention, but I did it more as an intimidation factor. So right after Tidemaster Tim picks his last pick, I went ahead and just picked mine immediately right afterwards. Can't put a little bit of pressure on everything going on. Don't know exactly what's going on. So after Tidemaster Tim picked up a Alolan Raichu, I decided to go ahead and pick up a Alolan Dugtrio. And this is where the snipes started happening. Sure, I sniped Zapdos, probably the best electric Pokemon at the start of the whole thing. But Yoku, who's going right after me, had a Alolan Dugtrio on his mind. So Alolan Dugtrio, very, very quick Pokemon. Access to Stealth Rocks. It's one of the only Steel-type Pokemon in the game. And the most important thing that I picked it up for is the use of Sucker Punch. So Sucker Punch is a Dark-type priority move as long as your opponent decides to attack. That can it won't take care of, but it deals quite a bit of damage to Alakazam, to any other Psychic Pokemon that gets picked up. So Alolan Dugtrio was a very, very important Pokemon that I wanted to pick up, make sure I had it on my team. And because of this, because of like me picking Alolan Dugtrio, Ioka was just kind of confused as to what he wanted to do, so he decides to follow up by picking his Dugtrio. Then Johnny GB continues going on and picks up Gyarados, which is an interesting pick just because it has that flying typing. It kind of makes it kind of vulnerable, especially considering switching in on rocks and stuff like that. But he follows up that Gyarados pick with Alolan Ninetales. So he picks up pretty much the best fairy-type Pokemon in the game. Ioku has Dragonite, so it's a perfect counter at that point. Ioku follows up by grabbing regular Venusaur. And at this point, I kind of feel like it's time for me to pick my Mega Pokemon. And I decided to go with Mega Beedrill. So Mega Beedrill, immensely quick. It's one of the quickest Pokemon that I've ever seen in my life. I think only a very slight few Pokemon really do outspeed it. Mega Alakazam being one of them, and I don't have to worry about that. It is a great counter towards regular Alakazam. It hits, it's a great pivot Pokemon. It works really well with like Zapdos, for example. They both have access to U-turns, so I can go in and out to check Pokemon to kind of get a feel of what exactly is going to happen. Access to great, Poison Jab, X-Scissor, Drill Run. If I really wanted to, I has access to Outrage, so I have a little bit of a counter towards the Dragonite and stuff like that. So I felt like Mega Beedrill at this point, was the best Mega that had not gotten picked. So it leaves Soy Monster with his, he has to pick up Mega, and the choices that he has there's not really much out there. And the point of this was like, I need to get my Mega now, because if I did not get it, there was also the chance, because Soy hadn't gotten his Mega at this point, the chance that he picked a Mega Beedrill, and I would have to work with something that I'm not too familiar with. So I had to pick Mega Beedrill as soon as possible. Mega Beedrill gets picked up from me. Tidemaster Tim follows up by getting Kangaskhan. Soy Monster gets Slowbro, then Gengar, so that, important things to look out for. Tidemaster Tim follows up by grabbing Nidoking. So I'm kind of left in a standstill. I don't know exactly what's left for me to grab. So I felt like I had to get in a really comfortable position to get a Pokemon that I really like. And I decided to go ahead and go with Hitmonlee. It's a Pokemon I've used in the past. If you guys have watched videos on this channel before, you guys have seen it. Plus, Snorlax is out there, and there's not much to counter Snorlax besides fighting type Pokemon. But Champ's already picked up at this point. I felt like, what is the next best fighting type Pokemon? And Primate at this point was still, out there. I guess you could grab Hitmonchan. I wasn't really familiar with it. I don't really think it's that great. And Poliwrath was already picked at this point as well. So I went with Hitmonlee. I felt like it was the next best thing. Has access to High Jump Kick. Has access to Rock Slide and Earthquake as well. So he can kind of try to put a little bit of chip damage here and there. But the main thing is, of course, the High Jump Kick. Hopefully landing on a Snorlax and getting the easy KO there. If there's any other normal Pokemon like the Kangaskhan that just got picked up, Hitmonlee would be a great counter to help me out there. After Hitmonlee gets picked up, Tauros, Alolan Persian, Electrode, and Jinx get picked up. At this point, I felt like I needed another Psychic-type Pokemon to try to counter some things. And I felt like the next best thing for me to pick, considering Yoku just picked Jinx, was Mr. Mime. I kept telling him, hey, pick it up, pick it up. He's like, nah, that's a joke, don't worry about it. So Mr. Mime actually has a great typing in Psychic and Fairy, so it has access to Fairy moves, and of course a really versatile Psychic Pokemon. the thing with this guy is it has pretty beefy stats. It can tank a little bit of hits. And, you know, of course, to a super effective stat move, it'll probably die instantly. However, though, for anything else, it's kind of, you know, beefy. It can withstand a hit. Doesn't hit as hard as something like an Alakazam, but it's still there. Plus, has access to Dazzling Gleam to stop those Dragon-type Pokemon. I know in Gen 1 there's not really many. And then also, you know, access to try to put a little bit more pressure on any other Pokemon. You know, Alolan Muck, for example. I mean, I wouldn't really send it in towards a Alolan Muck, but if I'm, you know, a situation occurs and I have to, so that's available as well. It was a really slippery slope. There's not much out there at this point. Everything's getting picked up left and right. So I was really confused as to what picked up. Cloyster gets picked up, Moltres gets picked up, Alolan Sandslash gets picked up, and that was a big hit, because that's what I was kind of eyeing. It was still available this late in the game. That was actually going to be my next pick. But it got picked up. Rapidash gets picked up. And at this point, I don't know what to pick up. I was like, do I try something new? Do I have fun with it? Venomoth is still out there. Still haven't picked it up yet. And then there's not really much else out there that really catches my eye. And I went, you know what? I've never really used a Clefable in my life. And it's an actual versatile Pokemon. And the reason I say it is you can run a rock set with it. So people expect your Rhydons to be the rock setters. But your Clefable is actually the one setting up the rocks. Has access to a lot of special attacks. It's a really good Pokemon. Also, it's probably the second best Fairy-type Pokemon in the game besides Alolan Ninetales. So I wanted to make sure I had access to that, considering my follow-up pick after Clefable was actually Alolan Executor. And the thing with the Alolan Executor is it wasn't the pick I necessarily wanted. It is dual type. They're 4 times weak to Ice-type Pokemon. I was kind of eyeing Victory Bell, and I think at this point, this was probably the Pokemon that I used like the longest time to decide which one I wanted. I wanted Victory Bell because of access to like Sucker Punch, very quick Pokemon, strong Pokemon, but I decided to go with the Alolan Executor just because it has access to Flamethrower, which baffles me, and it's a good Dragon-type Pokemon. Not very many dragons in this format, like I said, so I was just like, you know what, I think I can work with it. You know, Mega Drain's still on it, so it works real well. So I decided to pick up a Alolan Executor. I've used it in the past just a little bit, so hopefully it works out for me in favor. And then at this point, everything's getting picked up. You know, Chansey got picked up, Primeape got picked up, Executor, Wigglytuff, Lapras, Arcanine, Victory Bell. Everything's kind of just picked up at this point, and I'm left with my last pick. And I was gonna go with, I used my meme pick, and Elbron was telling me, no, dude, you don't get a meme pick. And I felt like Dodrio kind of felt like a meme pick, but it's still a very good Pokemon in this format. So I went ahead and picked up Dodrio. My initial thought was I was going to pick up a Alolan Raticate. It's a Pokemon people sleep on. But I decided to go with the Alolan Dugtrio. You know, has Swords Dance. That's a big thing, it has Swords Dance. And then it has access to Thrash, pretty much a normal type Outrage. Has access to Jump Kick. So it's a really good Pokemon. However, you know, Stealth Rock being a big thing in this format, something to worry about considering it is a flying type Pokemon. But I decided to pick him up. I felt like he's gonna do good. I just would have to use him a little bit smart depending on the matchup. You know, 10 Pokemon, we have 8 battles. You know, so we're gonna be working on pretty much getting a good team build going. Going into battles and stuff like that. But I felt like with the 10 that I have, I was very comfortable. Some you know, not necessarily the best picks in my opinion, but with what was left on the board, it kind of works with what I had in mind. So these are my 10 picks: Zapdos, Starmie, Rhydon, Alolan Dugtrio, Mega Beedrill, Hitmonlee, Mr. Mime, Clefable, Alolan Executor, and Dodrio. So I was very comfortable with these Pokemon. I'm looking into this tournament, or this draft league, very open eyes. You know, take it as a learning experience. There's a grand prize that the winner of this draft league actually gets the invitation from A-Drive's WBE for when Sword and Shield comes out, which is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of it. Actually, I don't even know if it's when Sword and Shield comes out. Maybe it might be before that. I thought that was really cool. So like it has a great incentive for us to play really well in these battles. However, I am using it like a learning experience. Never done this in my life. I get a little bit of advice from a few friends. So I think this is going to be a fun experience. I really do think it's going to be a fun experience, guys. But this is my draft league analysis. I know it's kind of all over the place. I may sound sick, guys. I apologize. But of course, catch these streams, these battles, of course, over on twitch.tv/LouietV_. Link to that will be in the description. Check it out. The link to the rest of my socials will be in the description below. If you guys can't make it to the live stream of the battle, don't worry about it. These will be uploaded here to this YouTube channel. They'll be popping up on your notification feeds as soon as possible. So with that, guys, I'll leave you with, well, make sure to drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that notification button so you never miss an upload. And I'll see you guys later. Peace!